Hello everyone, welcome to KK4Z. My name is Scott and today we're going to go off topic a little bit and we're going to talk about knives. Another one of my favorite subjects. If it wasn't for radios, it would have to be knives and pocket knives. And I wanted to talk about knives today versus knives yesterday versus knives when I was in the service. All different, and our world has changed. When I was growing up, there was a lot more camping, a lot more. Seemed like there was a lot more wilderness adventure. There was there was the survivalist movement, which turned into the mag unit or the prepper movement, and bushcrafting came in, but a lot of things have changed, and really what I want to talk about today is the context of knives and EmComm. In other words, what do you really need in EmComm today? Let's be honest. In most of the populated areas of this country, there's just not a whole lot of wilderness left. And even if there is, a couple miles walk and you're back out of it again. So it's just a little bit different, and the mindset's a little bit different. So I want to talk about pocket knives or knives and pocket knives that I have carried back when I was a kid versus when I was in the military, and going forward to today. And you'd like to sit there and say, well, there was a big change, but really, not so much. So when I was a kid, a popular knife was the Boy Scout pocket knife. This one was gifted to me by a friend when I completed a wood badge instructor's course. It was a gift. This is an Imperial pocket knife, and I'm just going to open up a couple things at a time. Let's see, there we go. It's got an awl and a sharp blade. As you can see, it's high carbon. And everything kind of works. You just have to open them one at a time because of the spring. But everything works. This is still a functional knife. The reason why this was gifted to me was this knife was produced from the mid-50s to the early 60s, which I was born in that time frame. So this is kind of like a birthday knife. Carry them a lot. Had a lot of fun with them. I've carried a lot of knives. The knives I've carried the most are Swiss Army knives, and we'll talk about more of those in a bit. So I want to go on to my military knives. And when I talk about being in the military, I actually have kind of two distinct eras when I was in the military. I spent a little over 3 years of my 8.5 years as a crew chief in a special operations unit. It was the 160th. I'm a plank holder or a founding father for that. And the stuff that they have today is very, very futuristic compared to what I had when we were back in the early 80s when the unit was formed. My LBE, so to speak, my web gear was an air crew survival vest. My sidearm was a Smith & Wesson Model 1538 special revolver, and I think standard issue was about 18 rounds of 38 special. And And then, of course, I had two M60 Delta machine guns at the time for the aircraft. But if we ever went down, and because of the type of missions that we were trained to do, we would be very far away from anybody that can help us. And so my knife back then, I actually had two knives. My knife back then was this. This is a Randall Model 1 fighting knife with a 6-inch blade. And then here is the sheath. This is the sheath and the knife. I carried it. It was attached to my aircrew survival vest, and this was the event. If me and my crew went down, we were it. And so I wanted to have a very good knife with me, and this is the knife I carried. In addition to that knife, I carried not this knife, but one very much like it. This is a Victorinox, what they call the Farmer. And it's got the same things as my Boy Scout knife, except this also had a good wood saw, and it works. This is not my original because the other one got stolen. But this is the exact same model. And it had pretty much the same thing as my Boy Scout knife. Fancy that, right? There we go. And so, but this is the knife that I pretty much carried with me my whole tour in the Army. Now, when I wasn't a crew chief, in other words, when I went back to maintenance, repairing aircraft for the rest of my tour, I still carried this knife. I had a little web belt sheath, and because we were wearing BDU uniforms, I could wear this on my belt and not be in violation of AR 670-1 because it was hidden. The other knife I carried in the field was a Buck Ranger 112, and they don't make them anymore, but today it would be the slim style with the plastic handles. And back then it came with a nylon sheath that we carried it in, and that's what I carried. And I don't have one in today. I have another knife that I'll show you later that's again very similar to it that I carry today. But those are the two knives, this knife and the Buck Ranger 112 are the two knives that I carried for most of my career in the Army, 8.5 years, and they served me very well. I did not need, because I was not going to be placed in a situation like I would have as an aircrew, I didn't need that big sheath knife, and I never felt under-knived with my lock blade Buck and my Swiss Army knife. So, moving on to today, and while this is a great knife, it is a little big for the pocket, and it is a little heavy because it's got the aluminum scales. So a knife that I carried for many, many, many years was one similar to this. This is a small Tinker, and the knife I carried is very similar to this, except it was called the Recruit because they didn't have this one back then, and I like the size of it. It fits in the pocket well. The difference between this and the Recruit is this has a Phillips head blade, and it has an awl. The Recruit didn't have those two, but the other blades are the same. It has two blades, and then it has the bottle opener and the can opener, along with a pair of tweezers and a toothpick. And I carried this knife, or the Recruit, probably for a long time, probably 15, 20 years. I mean, it's been one of my staples. However, in today's world, we don't need can openers or bottle openers a whole lot. And just because everything is pop top or snap top or whatever, so I don't really carry that anymore. What I carry now, and I showed you in my EDC video, is I carry this. This is a Benchmade bug out. It's about the same size as a Ranger, except it weighs less and it's very thin. And it's lightweight. And what I like about it, and I told you this in my other video, is it fits in my cell phone holster. That's what this is, a belt loop back here. The cell phone goes in here, and then you can see, and you can see where the knife goes. And I like that because it gets the knife out of my pocket. I don't like to have, I already carry enough in my pockets. I don't like to have any more than I absolutely have to have. So it gets the knife out of my pocket. It's easy to get to. I always have this holster because I always have my cell phone, therefore I always have my knife. And so that's really what I carry today. And like I said in my EDC video, I carry a P38 on my neck chain with a little mini flashlight. And then on my car keys, I have a screwdriver and a bottle opener if I need it. But I'm honest with you, they really don't get used. The only time I really use them is when I go camping. I have a couple other knives that I carry from time to time. One is, this is a case, what's called a medium jack, and basically it has a clip point blade and a pen blade. This is what I consider a classic design for a jackknife. Two-bladed, both blades are on one end, a clip and a pen. And then the other knife I carry is kind of fancy. I call it my Sunday go-to-meeting knife. And I got this on my way to Washington, D.C. when I took a job up there. And this is another case knife. It's a swayback Warncliffe. This is the Warncliffe style blade right here. And it's Damascus steel. It's very, 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 very sharp. And this is, when I'm dressing up, I like it because it's a very thin, very handy. And if I have to pull it out when I'm wearing a suit or a shirt and tie or whatever, it just kind of looks nicer. But, you know, getting back to what I was saying, and I want to let you know that I'm experimenting today. I actually have 2 cameras going, and I'm playing with software. So if I'm not doing things exactly right, it's because I am still learning this. I told you I would try to get better this year, but it will be a process. So really what I'm trying to say is you should always have a knife. Now, again, what type of knife do you need? I've been out of the Army now for over 30 years, probably 35 years. And to be honest with you, this really, excuse me, this really, I've carried more than any other knife. I like Swiss Army knives. The steel is good. The price is right. They do good things. However, I don't think we need all the doodads anymore, because most of the stuff today is a pop top or a twisty. And so take it with a grain of salt. But really what I'm saying is you really don't need anything probably bigger than this. I don't like them any smaller, and I don't like them too much bigger. I have another knife here that I bought, but because of its size, it stays in the box. I don't take it out that much. It's just too big for what I like to use. This knife, it was great while I was in the Army. However, it's a little heavy now, and it's just a little bit bigger. If you compare it, let's see. If you compare it to my other knife, I'm not doing a good job here, am I? All right, there. You can see it's just a little bit bigger, but it's heavier and it's kind of bulky in the pocket. You know, what I wear today, this knife serves me well. It's a little pricey, you know, for a knife, but for about half the price of this, you can get a Buck Ranger with the plastic handles. The Buck is just a little bit heavier than this by about maybe a half an ounce, but it's still good steel. That 420 HC steel is a good steel, and Buck does do a good heat treat. I've carried Bucks as a kid too, but this seems to be the right size. Like this is a 3 1/8 inch blade. I think the Buck Ranger is like 3 inches, and so it's the right size. It's sturdy enough to do everything I need it to do. It's not flimsy. I'm not afraid of breaking it. But, you know, you don't need a big knife anymore. You need a sharp knife. And so you should be keeping all your knives sharp. But you don't need a big knife anymore. And then while we're here, let's talk about Leathermans and multi-tools. I've had a couple. I just don't carry them. I keep one in one of my bags in my truck. I have a Swiss tool, which is a wonderful thing, but every time I carry it on my person, it's just heavy, and I just don't use those tools. I'm usually never far from tools. I spent a good part of my career working in tools, so I've got tools in my truck, I've got tools at home, and then at my age, I'm usually never very far from my truck, so if I need something, I go get it. But that's really what I wanted to talk about today is knives and how we've evolved as a country and as a civilization, you know, where we went from. And the reality is a good, you know, fairly sturdy, good quality knife. And like I said, a Swiss Army knife is hard to beat. You can't go wrong. All right. Well, that's it. Hope you enjoyed the video. Hope it was informative. And if you have suggestions for future videos, I'll take them. I'm kind of in a little flux right now trying to decide where I want to go the next go around. So you let me know, and we'll work on it. So 73s, everyone, and thanks for watching, and we'll talk to you later. This is Scott, KK4Z, out.